An EU-Ukraine summit has wrapped up in Kyiv. The EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen praised Ukraine for efforts it's made towards membership while it's been in a state of war. The EU Council President Charles Michel, meanwhile, says a 10th package of sanctions against Russia is currently being worked on. Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky says his objective was to begin negotiations on membership with the bloc this year.
Today's summit was an opportunity for us to show that Ukraine is making sound progress towards reaching criteria for Europe's single market. We have put in place a number of actions which will enable Ukraine to become a fully fledged member of the European Union.
Russia is suffering a massive strategic failure, but Ukraine is withstanding and is building its path towards the European Union. Well, the fact that we are here amidst the war, but we are building, discussing and developing the future of Ukraine in the European Union, that is speaking more than 1,000 words.
There can be no safe and independent Europe without safe and independent Ukraine. Ukraine is the EU is Ukraine. Let's make it happen. Slava Ukraini, vive l'Europe. Merci.
For more on this story, we can go across to France 24's Gulliver Craig, standing by in Kyiv. Gulliver, will Ukrainian officials be happy with what they heard at that summit there?
I think that they can be satisfied with this summit. Yes, they had been very loudly saying that they wanted a date to be set for the start of accession negotiations to the European Union and for that to happen this year. They didn't get that, but they knew, I think, that they weren't going to get that. They're just putting on as much pressure as they can. And in return, I think that they got very, very strong words stressing, particularly from Charles Michel, that Ukraine's place is in the European Union and that Ukraine will join the European Union. And the European officials didn't rule out starting those accession negotiations this year. That depends, of course, on Ukraine's progress on implementing certain recommendations that the European Union has made, in particular in terms of the fight against corruption. And the other thing that Volodymyr Zelensky did get from Charles Michel was approval of his 10-point peace plan. That's a peace plan that, of course, includes full withdrawal of Russian forces from all of the parts of Ukraine that Russia currently occupies, including Crimea.
And Gulliver, EU officials announced they'd be setting up a prosecution center for Russia's crime of aggression. What more can you tell us?
Well, the thing is that neither Russia nor Ukraine are signatories to the relevant treaties that would allow the International Criminal Court to prosecute Russia potentially for the crime of aggression. So there have been a lot of people talking about creating a different mechanism for it. The idea that they discussed today is to create, first of all, an investigation committee with a view to eventually creating some kind of special tribunal, perhaps in The Hague, to try Russia for the crime of aggression. Of course, it's very unclear whether that will ever happen, that Vladimir Putin might one day be in the dock. That certainly seems a long way off at the moment, but it's more about the international community agreeing with Ukraine that this is an absolutely unprovoked war and that this should be considered a crime to attack a neighbouring country without any really justifiable reason. So it's a strong show of support for Ukraine for them to throw their weight behind this idea. And also I noted Charles Michel, when he was talking about Russian war crimes in Ukraine, he didn't say something like Russia has been accused of committing war crimes in Ukraine. He said Russia is committing war crimes in Ukraine and must be brought to justice.
Gulliver, thank you very much for that. Gulliver Craig reporting there from Kyiv.